Okay, so now we are going to create a fairly easy one, which is going to be just some fabric. So I got a few reference images here. So I have this one, a bit more of a close-up, and this one. And most of this fabric is going to be just a normal map because we want to keep it fairly clean. Now, as you can see over here, you can see the stripy details, but if you go closer, you can actually see that everything has been made out of like little stitches or knits or dots, whatever you want to call it. But we are going to go for like a little bit more of the stripy detail, but I do want to try and incorporate a little bit of these dots. Now, the thing is that I probably think that we will not have the resolution to actually get it up to this level of detail. So what we will do is we will make all these rows of knots and everything. And then we will just have one row that is a little bit bigger than the other one, and then just tile it one after another. And then we will hopefully get an effect like this. Now on top of that, we are going to just create some random wrinkles. We do not want to make it fairly directional because we will actually be doing that in Marvelous Designer. So we just want to only have some generic wrinkles in here. And for the rest, for the color, it's going to be quite easy. Let's just have, we're probably going to go for like a red color because most of our dressing is going to be red. Oh no, you know what? What we are going to do is we are going to go ahead and we are going to make the fabric while it is light gray or maybe even white. Well, let's do light gray. And then inside Unreal, what we can do is inside Unreal, we can just inside the material change the color dynamically. So we can just give it whatever color we want. I think that will be better. So I'm just going to drag this over to my other screen. And this one shouldn't take too long. Should only take one chapter. So let's create a metallic based or a physically based metallic roughness. And I'm going to call this fabric. And 2048 by 2048 is fine. Let's press OK and get rid of the 3D view. Okay, so now for our knots. First of all, what I always like to do with fabric is over here check, because we have like fibers and we have even stitches and everything already inside, or in here waves already inside our, as you can see, inside our patterns. So often you can get, even in the noises, some quite interesting stuff in here. So do we have something in noises? I can't remember that we always had, oh yeah, here, oh wait, it was fur that we had in noises. But yeah, fur is not really what we want. So let's have a look at patterns. Let's see if we can save some time. So the wave 1 and 2, I do not think that they will work very well. So I'm gonna go more for something like fibers. And let's have a look at these two. So we have 2 fibers, which look pretty interesting. Once you do in tiling, you get a bit like that effect what I was talking about. So we might use the fibers as like a base. And if I just have a closer look, yeah, I think we can use the fibers as a base. And what we then want to do is we want to give it probably a shape splatterer. I think that will work best. So let's grab a shape splatterer. And let's just drag this one in to our pattern one. And we can get started with that. So first of all, we need to go down and in our height, turn off our height adjustments all set. And that will already give us this effect with the shape splatterer. Now I am going to set the amount to be, let's set the Y amount quite low, or quite high. So let's do 64. And let's set the amount for our lines to be something like 32. So let's do half that. Something like this should work. Okay. And then the next thing that we want to do is, because we now have this little space left here, so these can be the big ones, and then we can just shift everything down a little bit and leave this space down here. So for these, we probably cannot do anything with the scale. No, because we need to keep them correct. Same with the position and also with the rotation and even with the height. So there's not a lot we can do. So looking at it like this, I think the only thing I want to do is I do want to go to scale. I just want to squash the Y amount a little bit. So let's squash the Y amount to 0.9. Okay. And then I want to add a transform to this. Oh no, you know what? No, I want to actually duplicate my shape splatterer. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to add a blend. And the blend will add both the shape splatterers. So let's actually have the top one to be the smaller one. So we have the bottom one over here, which is going to be just these big ones. And then the top one is going to be smaller. So first of all, let's set the blending mode to be max lighting. And then if we go into our shape splatterer and go down to position, and then set the offset to be vertical. Oh really, it doesn't. Normally it should just give us, okay, that's no problem that it doesn't do it. Normally it gives sets the offset just completely, but looks like that this time it doesn't do it. But basically what I mean is what we can then do is we can just throw a transform in here, because all we really need to do is we just need to move this down. So if we go to our blend, move this into the center, but then go into our shape splatterer and just make this one in the scale a little bit thinner. And what this will show is it will on the long run show as thicker lines with like a thin line in between. And that's the same effect as that you can see in our reference image over here. So you have thicker line, thinner line, thicker line, thinner line. And that's basically what I want to create. So I'm just going to make it slightly thicker than this. So I'm going to set this to 0.6. There we go, 0.6. Okay, and that gives like this random fabric effect. Now after that I am going to add a very quick levels, because I'm not yet sure how strong we want to have this. So after levels, just create a normal, and let's set the normal to OpenGL. And yes, it's going to be a bit hard to actually see this, and that's why I wanted to create my levels and play around with the center slider, see if how this looks. I think for now, I think for now I just want to leave the levels. I think this is more a matter of seeing it, because there are so many lines, so the anti-aliasing will be quite bad. So I think I rather just want to see it inside Marmoset. So I'm going to plug this into our normal. Then we don't need our height. But what we might want to get is an ambient occlusion. Although actually I highly doubt that we need it, but we'll see. Let's just create an ambient occlusioner, because it will probably just be one big noise. So if I set the height depth of the ambient occlusion to be maybe like 0.001. Yeah, okay, it gives a tiny bit of occlusion, so I guess... Oh, I didn't mean to make two notes. So I guess if we set the samples to 16, that will be fine. So let's just create an output. And let's add an item and set this to be ambient occlusion. I'm just going to call the identifier AO, the label AO, and the group to be material. And so this is basically the same as that we've done quite a few times before. Okay, let's create a uniform black color for our metallic. And now let's start with our color for over here for just our... Oh no, wait, actually we are going to create some wrinkles first before we want to go over. So we do want to do the wrinkles after we've already done our normal map. So I'm going to add a normal combine. And for our wrinkles, quite easy, because we only need to have them fairly random, is we can use like creases, something like this. And just make the scale a little bit smaller. You can play around with the Zoda a bit, and you can play around with the warp intensity. So I'm just going to give it a tiny bit of a warp. And I do want to have the direction to be vertical, because these ones are already horizontal. So it will catch up better, hopefully, when we set this to vertical. Now, after that, we are going to create a levels, then a blur high quality grayscale. So with the levels, we are just going to tone things down a bit with using our center slider. And you guessed it, blur high quality grayscale is just to make everything nice and soft again. And then if we throw on a normal modifier to this with an OpenGL. And for now, let's set the intensity to be like 10, just so I can see what I'm doing. Now let's go to the blur high quality grayscale and just give it a very soft effect. So I'm going to set this to 3. Yeah, that looks very soft, but of course it's too much right now. So I'm just going to lower my black slider like this, so that we now only have it in very few places over here. And let's plug that over the top here. And set our normal combine technique to detail oriented. And now in our wrinkles normal, let's set this back to like 3 or something. We probably need to set it to like 5, but we'll balance those things out. I first want to just create a solid base. So speaking about solid bases, let's just save our scene. So I'm going to save it into textures, materials. Let's make a new folder called fabric. And in here, I'm just going to save it. Okay, so for our uniform color, let's just go ahead and probably blend between 2 very slightly different colors. And I do want to get like a grunge map for that, for the blending. So if we set the grunge map and we just set the contrast all the way down and maybe play around with the balance a bit. Here we go. And now if we let's create a blend over here and blend 2 uniform colors using our grunge map as a mask. So I'm gonna go in for uniform 1 and uniform 2. Uniform color 1 is going to be, let's say that we are going to set it to 186 in gray, 186. So that's slightly, it's slightly lighter than 256. Because 256 is around 1 to 8, sorry, I mean 1 to 8, 186. So, and I always like to make it slightly lighter just so that I find that I have a little bit more control in Unreal when I do that. So, because in Unreal we have it's a bit the same as when we do over here like an overlay. We will have roughly that effect in Unreal. So, the second one, I'm actually going to give it a very slight bluish tint. I'm just going to make it a tiny bit darker like this. And now I'm just going to plug these two into each other, which will give us this effect. So it's just a very soft look, but it looks generally a little bit dirty. Now on top of that, I'm going to add a blend. And let's just do the curvature method, where we add a curvature and a gradient map. And we plug that into the blend and set the blend to be art subtract. And then we have over here our normal. Let's plug that into the curvature. Set it to OpenGL. And now if we go into our blend, we need to give this a very low value, because we only want to get only a tiny bit out of this. So I'm going to set to 0.03 probably. There we go, 0.03. So that will just give a little bit of the texture back. And I'm going to use that as my base color. I'm sorry if I go quite fast, but this is bare minimum basics. We have already went over every single thing that I am doing right now, so I just want to speed things along a little bit in this part just to save some time. So for our roughness, let's create an HSL node and just plug in our diffuse in here, and let's just low down saturation just in case. And now let's add well, actually, we can probably just work with the lightness in here and just set the lightness to be quite dark. Plug it into the roughness. And let's save our scene. And now we can export outputs. So let's export them into a folder inside our fabric folder called final, just like always. TGA is fine, and those are all our maps. And let's press automatic export and just press OK. Sorry about that, I just need to quickly switch over my license. There we go, because of course Mama said you can switch over licenses. For Mama said I have multiple computers. Here we go, so the scene is loaded. Now let's create a new material, and let's call this fabric. Let's throw that on here. And let's open up our occlusion slot for an ambient occlusion. And for the rest, all we need to do is we need to navigate to our save folder. And let's start by dragging things in. So let's drag in our norm map. Let's drag in our roughness map. And of course I did that the wrong way around. Let's drag in our metallic. Oh no, wait, Did I do the roughness the wrong way around? I don't think so. Anyway, metallic. We have our base color. And we have our AO. And now, I did the roughness the wrong way around. So we actually need to make it a lot lighter. So let's just go to something like this. There we go. And now, seeing this, what I need to do. So the wrinkles are fine, but we need to tile it a lot more, and it just depends. I'm going to see if we go down here into the texture drop down, we can actually set the tiling here. So if I set the tiling a lot lower, you will see that the wrinkles won't work. So in that case, we need to do the tiling inside substance. And we are talking just about this tiling. And it's very easy because we can just do a transform and literally just tile this by half and see how if the ambient occlusion still holds up. See about fine. So here we go. But we need to be careful that we, as you can see, you get a lot of anti-aliasing when you set this tiling very strong. So on top of that, in my norm map, I just want to set my normal to be like 0.3 to keep it nice and soft. You know what I'm going to do? Is I'm going to tile it a little bit more, not by 2. I'm just going to hold Ctrl Shift and just drag down my cube a little bit. Okay, and let's see how that looks. Okay, so I think that's looking better. Maybe tiny bit more. So let's tile it a tiny bit more. Here we go. And the fabric, most of the fabric will actually be done into a shader inside Unreal. So we will actually make it into a proper shader with translucency and a lot of other stuff. But for now, I just want the basics. So we now have some fabric with like some wrinkles. And even here in Marmoset, you can do the color. So this is what I mean. This is the same concept as we are going to do inside Unreal, where we can just overlay like a color on top of it. So we can give it like a nice color like this. And for the rest, what I need to do is I need to balance it a little bit more. So I'm going to set my normal to 0.2. No, 0.1 even. There we go. So it's just like a soft normal look. On top of that, I'm going to work on my roughness a little bit. And I'm going to go in and for my roughness, I think I'm going to just throw on a levels. And I'm going to make everything a little bit brighter, but still keep some of those nice details in, some of those like grunge map details. Like this. So now as you can see, now we have some grunge map details in there when the light hits it. Okay. And yeah, for the rest it feels a bit plain, but as I said, a lot of this is going to be done inside Unreal. So I'm just going to have a think. I think I would just want to quickly include into the ambient occlusion the wrinkles. So these ones over here, let's just plug those into another ambient occlusion node. Give that node a little bit of depth. So I'm going to give it a depth of 0.05. And then blend these two ambient occlusion nodes using the blending mode multiply. And there we go. So those will stand out a bit better. And now we can just change the height depth to 0.03, for example, to minimize it. So those work well for that. Let's just increase the norm map for our wrinkles a little bit. So let's set that to 7. Oh, actually, you know what? I don't want to do that. I want to keep it nice and low. So I'm actually going to set it all the way to 4. And you know what? I'm going to set it even lower. I'm going to set it to 3. Here we go. So that is a fairly basic fabric. Right now, As I said, with the resolution, you can barely see you can only see a few lines actually. But I think for our purpose, this is like already, as I said, it was a very quick texture. But this is like a quick material as a good base before we go and jump into Unreal, where we will actually make a material out of this with translucency, with different color options, maybe some different dirt options, and we'll just throw a bunch of stuff in there. But for now, as you can see, it's very straightforward. So if I just have this, I'm just going to add a frame. Let's call this patron. Let's go ahead and call this one normal. This one over here, base color. And AO, and I'm sure you guys get the other two because those are just the roughness. So let's save our scene, and I think that's already it. So this is now another fun new subject. Also, after this, we will actually start with some prop modeling because we now have a base text on. So we are now going to jump into prop modeling, and we will model our props and texture them. And after that, we will jump into Unreal and actually set up our scene. For the prop modeling, the first thing that we are going to do is we are going to unwrap our modular pieces, just so that we have these materials on there, and just so that that's already finalized. And that's only going to take like 10 minutes. It shouldn't take long. And after that, we will probably start with the cabin. But what I will do is I will gather a bunch of reference for you guys. So let's continue with that.